Well, hello, this is Lori Stratton from the Stratton Setlist at Grove Studios today. As part of Grove Sessions, I'd like to welcome my guest, and my first guest, Mike Ward, a Detroit folk singer-songwriter. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you. I am really glad to be here, and it's nice to see you in person.
Yes.
And because we've communicated a lot in
Right.
other forms between private message and email and
Yes.
text, all of the above. But
Yes.
it's really good to, as I said, good to see your eyes anyway.
Yes. It is nice to have a safe in-person conversation. I can tell you that face-to-face somewhat here. I'll take it. Because mostly my communication with people has been email or phone these days and
Yeah.
video.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But again, thanks for being here. And I just want to say, how have you been doing with everything that's been going on? You know, like staying creative. I know it's been since the pandemic started in March. How have you been? How have you just been hanging in there with everything?
Well, it's been an amazing, crazy time because we were right in the middle of production of a record that we had started in January. I was working with I worked with David Roof up at
Yes.
Rooftop Recordings in Grand Blanc, and producer Mike Gentry, and we had gotten all of my tracks done in January and February, guitar and vocals, and we had just met and had a game plan for, okay, you know, here's some of the instruments we're going to bring in, here's some of the singers we're going to bring in, we're going to start rolling, and then March hit, and we all know what happened then.
Right.
So we were off for quite a while, and it was a challenge actually to get back up rolling,
Yes.
but we were able to do it. But as far as that initial, you know, there was kind of an initial surge, and I think a lot of people had it, of like, I'm not gonna let this control
Right.
everything, you know. So I did a lot of streaming shows initially. I was really active there, both listening and playing. Connected to a lot of different songwriting groups, and that was fulfilling. And out of that, in April, I connected with a songwriter in Brooklyn named Paul Weinfield, and he had a challenge that he said, "Hey, you know, who's up to try and write a song every day in April?
Yes.
You know, at least a verse and a chorus, and record it and put it out."
Nice.
So I said, "You know what? I'll try that." So, you know, it was a meaty challenge, I will say, and especially after about day 10, I'm like,
Yes.
this is really hard. And I was very fortunate that I had a lot of notes that I keep on my phone. I had a lot of audio messages that I
Right.
leave to myself when I'd be out riding a bike or walking. Sometimes something would hit me, and so I did have a fairly sizable amount of material, and I had just been telling people this in January, and that I had never had more incomplete songs, you know,
Right.
in
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
life, and, you know, little starts and here and lines that I wasn't sure what were going to happen to. And this was an opportunity I saw. And so some of the songs ended up being, you know, pulled from that, but a lot of the songs were like pulled from what was happening,
Yes.
the reaction, or, you know, something that I heard, something that I read, someone I encountered, something that happened. So I found it to be a blessing.
Absolutely. And what I liked about that project was just how prolific you were, and honestly took advantage of that time to be creative and to really kind of put your songwriting skills to the test. And the output you came out with was fantastic. Like, you know, we kind of talked about it being like songs of comfort, you know, because at that time we were all home and we weren't sure what to make of it. Of course, no one knows how long this pandemic is going to go on and the lasting impacts it's going to have. But the fact that a lot of people stepped up to take the time to be creative and to talk about what was going on through their music, I think is important, you know, because I think as I heard those
Yeah.
songs, it gave me a sense of comfort as he talked about personal themes, political, social, a whole host of things in those songs. And I think it's a great way to kind of introduce a lot of different material and how you've evolved as a songwriter since We Wonder in 2018,
Yeah.
just during that short time period. So,
Yeah, that project was from a couple standpoints, from a writing standpoint, but it also, because you're writing every day, you're not necessarily going back and refining, or
Right.
you're not going back and even remembering sometimes. So I was really glad that as part of it they said make sure you record it and post it.
yes.
If I hadn't had those recordings, I'm not sure I would have remembered how to play, what I did on day 2
Yes.
when I got to day 30. And since that time, I've gone back and I've refined a number of them, and just practicing those, I've only memorized a few of them, to be able to play them out. And because I had been in the mode of the record, I was so focused on those songs. And even there, we put 10 songs on the record. We demoed 18
Okay.
to whittle down to that. And initially the record was 11 songs. And we dropped one after we did
Gotcha.
the
Yeah.
initial track. It just, as I continued to play it, I just felt like it didn't match the rest of the record, and we're going to let that one go. But there are still songs kind of in that batch that we demoed, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with those at some point.
But I think at one point you and I, you were looking at potentially like releasing those as like kind of like live acoustic, like very raw tracks.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've got a whole great catalog of things. If you want to do another collection of songs after your next project coming out, you've got a whole bunch of material to choose from.
Yeah.
And a lot of great songs from the ones that I did hear, of those 30 plus, I think it was even.
Yeah, it was 30 plus. So yeah, so I feel like I've got good material that I'm really anxious, next year to put in some kind of a form. It'll probably be much simpler than the new record.
Right.
The new record is, by the way, it does have a title. It's called The Darkness and the Light, and that's kind of the scope of what it takes in.
Yes, and I can hear, even as I think back to the 30 songs in 3 days, that some of those are kind of like an introduction to that, and from what I have heard from The Darkness and the Light, which I think is a great album, by the way, and I'm excited for people to hear this when it comes out, just to hear kind of like the production, to hear your vocals, the guitar work, the collaborations, the whole thing is fantastic. And I think it's a great themes when you talk about light and darkness, because we're facing so much of that personally, nationally, even globally, with everything that's going on. And to kind of have a way to encapsulate that and give people some sense of hope in a time when we really need it, I think this is the type of music that does that.
Thanks. That you said it better than I could. But that is what the album was striving to do, to sort of explore those realms, and whether they be personal or whether they be global.
Yes.
Like you said, they do. There's parts of this that take on those roles.
Right.
So.
Well, and let me ask you, as like you said, you recorded most of the tracks before the pandemic hit, and then
Yeah.
you kind of had to come back and revisit them after kind of taking a break from those. Did you get was there a lot of tweaking that went on with changing those tracks when they originally recorded? Like, did you completely just say, I don't like this first version, I want to completely start over some of the tracks? Or was it a matter of just putting the final touches on them with Dave and Mike Gentry?
It really was the sort of the final touches.
Okay.
We had really done, I think, a lot of work to get those tracks to the point where we had guitar, bass, and my vocals.
Yes. Okay.
And then, initially we were gonna start bringing in instruments, and then we thought, well, we still wanted to keep it spare, because we just felt like to go from where we were on We Wonder, which was really just guitar,
Yes.
one instrument, and my voice.
Yes.
To go too big just didn't seem like the right way to go. Plus, I don't generally have a band.
Right.
When I play out, I sometimes will have one or two players with me, but it's not a full ensemble. So I wanted to be cognizant of what I could reproduce, but I also wanted to have a fuller sound. So what we actually started with were all the vocals.
Okay.
We began bringing in the backing vocals and sort of dressing those around what I had. And then once we heard those and we sort of had them in place, then we brought in the instruments, and that brought a whole new layer. Then when we mixed, that was really the point where Mike Gentry said, let's make sure we get to a point where we have as little as we need.
Right.
And no more. It's like, what can we pull out and still feel good? We don't want to load it up every second, and we
Yes.
don't want to. I take a lot of pride in lyric wise.
Yes.
And I wanted to make sure those were heard, and that was Mike's point as well. He said we don't want anything to overshadow that part of it.
Yes.
So
Because of the stories you tell in your songs. Yes, I think, and from what I've heard the tracks, it captures it beautifully. Like, the music is there to really kind of help shape the story sonically, but I think in terms of the lyrics, you tell great stories. I think I may have mentioned this when we've talked before, but like, it reminds me a lot of, like the way Jason Isbell and like Taylor Goldsmith from Dawes tell stories. Like, they just really hit to the emotion. They do for me, as I listen, because I'm a big fan of both. And your songs to me do the same. Like, they'll just hit the emotion, and I'll just feel like I can feel myself in the situation, like hearing from your words, and then just kind of figuring out how does this relate to who I am and what I'm going through, or how this might relate to other people and what they're going through. And of course, what were the thoughts going through your head with some of the songs as you were writing those? I mean, just the stories are magnificent, is what I'm trying to say.
thank you. And those are two writers that I admire a lot. Jason Isbell is like probably top of the list these days.
Yes.
I'm a huge John Prine fan, and
Yes,
that was
him too.
We've just lost so many great songwriters
Yes.
this
It's been a tough
year.
year.
It's been so tough, and but Jason Isbell is a huge influence. Bruce Springsteen's a huge influence on me.
Yes,
and,
another great one.
he's just he's still going strong at 71. I'm just
Yes.
I admire the durability and the
Yes.
ability.
Yes.
He's just like an amazing storyteller.
Yes, and as a writer myself, I always have a special appreciation for lyrics and the stories that are told, because that's what, honestly, the stories that are told and the emotion that they bring when I hear them is what really catches me as a music fan and as one who listens to all kinds of genres and all kinds of people. So, and as I was listening to The Darkest and the Light, there are several like thematic elements I came across, like hope, I mentioned, gratitude, trying to accept the situation and figure out how can I improve this myself? How can I come out of maybe a dark place, or maybe some sort of sense of personal struggle, which I know a lot of people have experienced during the pandemic. With those themes, as you're, did you have these themes in mind when you're writing these tracks, or is that just kind of like, as you're writing songs, is that just kind of what naturally comes out, and kind of, you found that these tracks kind of help shape that theme for the album, the light and the darkness, those types of opposing forces?
I think it's I think it has a lot to do with my age. I'm 66. I kind of got started in this late, and I think that it comes from a lot of experience and examination of that. I've come from a really big family. We've had some loss over the last 10 years, and some struggles, and these songs were all written well before the pandemic.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But they sort of tee up the emotions that people have. That eye toward the future,
Yes.
with also one eye in the past.
Right.
And I think that really since my dad passed, and my mom had died almost 10 years before that, I've been sort of on that path of examining kind of life as it is, life as it was,
Yes.
and life after I go.
Right.
What's left, what's remembered, what's not remembered. I archived about 10,000 slides and photographs
Oh,
from my
wow.
dad's collection.
wow.
He was
Yeah.
an amateur photographer.
Yes.
And you can't do that without just, diving into it.
Right.
And the faces and the eyes and the smiles and the tears and all those stories, they kind of ruminate around. And I think for me as a writer, I've realized that that's the way things have to happen for me.
Yes.
They have to kind of sink in, ruminate, and then at some point something comes out. Farther down the road is a song that I started singing one day in the shower. I had no melody initially, but I just had this thought, and I started to hum it, and I started to the chorus came out as one complete chorus.
Oh wow.
And then it's like, then you go, wow, I better write that. But then you're left with, okay, where do I go from there? With that, and that was one of the that was actually an early song. Content was another one.
Yes. Yes.
Content is that same kind of kind of reflective
Yes.
quality, but in that case I was trying to play a little bit more with language and play a little bit with certain lines and kind of get people to smile a little bit, but then also to get them to think a little bit
Yes.
too. And I try and do that wherever I can. And then there are other songs that are just out of thin air. The line between us is absolutely just out of thin air. And actually I took 3 passes at writing it from 3 different points of view.
Oh
at
wow.
one
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
And just to try it, but and No Way to Live was a reflection of my wife and I moving to downtown Detroit.
Yes, that's
5
right,
years
yes.
ago, and we walk everywhere. We walk a lot, bike a lot, and just the vastness,
Yes.
vast numbers of homeless
Yes.
in the city, in the country, and what a tough life. And your heart goes out to them,
Yes. Absolutely.
and you look at it and you think, there, but for the grace of God go I.
Right. Right.
And how does that happen?
Right.
And,
Exactly.
That song came out almost fully formed. It took a little while to tool everything
Yes.
and to get it to the point where I wanted to record it for the finished record. And Sarah Gibson joined on that one.
That's beautiful with the
cello.
cello. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That
Yeah.
it's just a beautiful addition to that track.
Yeah. So, Midnightville was a song that is another reflection of kind of cities around the country
Yes.
that experience that sort of decayed
Yep.
quality
Yep.
and forgotten quality.
Yes.
But yet, I try, and that one I wanted to try and at least live in some hopefulness.
Yes.
But it's a quiet song. When I first started writing that one, it was not a quiet song. It was going to be with a big band sound. and
Okay. Okay.
Lots of heavy guitar, and we recorded it, and I almost said, we're just going to leave this one off the record. But I still had heart for it, so I went back and I simply retooled the pace of it and the tone of it and made it a quieter, darker feel.
Yes.
And for me personally, it's one of my favorite tracks on the record. Whether, whether that, speaks to other people, I don't know, but it does to me.
Well, and I think having heard the entire record, which thank you for sharing that with me, I enjoyed getting a chance to hear all of what's coming. I think all the tracks are timeless and will have a way for people to relate them in one form or another. There's kind of like a universal appeal to the songs that people can relate to it through a variety of different ways. Whether you're questioning, like, where am I at this point in my life? What are the external things in the environment that are affecting me, personally, and those around me, and kind of where am I headed, And I think with all that, it kind of helps to address the uncertainty, I mean, everyone talks about the uncertainty of what's going on. We don't know when certain things are going to come back safely. We don't know how long. We don't know when this pandemic will end. And I think addressing that uncertainty with a sense of hope, I think, is going to keep people going. And I keep telling a lot of artists, like some artists have said, I want to wait to put stuff out. And I always encourage and say, put it out. We need to hear your music. Your music gives us a sense of hope, and it's something to look forward to. Personally, for me anyway, I can say that. And this album is one of those, and I'm excited for people to get a chance to hear this. And I think this is coming. You're slated to release probably singles in November.
Our plan is to do one single. Our Turn to Shine is going to be the first song out. We're going to release that and a video.
Okay.
That my filmmaking son in Brooklyn is creating.
Oh, nice.
And and we're going to release that on Bandcamp only.
Okay.
Digitally, and with the video.
Nice.
And then probably a month later in December, we're going to release No Way to Live.
Okay.
And that'll also have a video also done by my son. And that song, we're going to make all the proceeds go directly to organizations that assist the homeless.
Wonderful.
And
wonderful.
We're still in seeking if we're going to have a partner, we're not sure. But regardless, we're going to make a donation of all the proceeds, and we're going to encourage, that song is going to encourage donations to help those who assist the homeless.
Wonderful. That's terrific. And I think that song nicely encapsulates someone who may be going through that situation, and a good reminder that it could happen to anyone. That anyone can find themselves in a situation like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the plan for the full album is after the first of the year. And we're not sure that'll be January or February.
Okay.
Part of that will be dictated by, we'd like to look at doing some type of a release show.
Yes.
And it'll be streamed, obviously.
Right.
So that will take a little bit of scheduling, and I would like to have some of the players who played on the record be part of that. So, it'll just be how many we can have, and
right.
What kind of a space we'll shoot in, and how we release that. But then once that's ready, everything will be released on Spotify, and Apple Music, Tidal, all the platforms, YouTube, and then we'll have CDs available as well.
Okay, cool. Well, and let me kind of get into that. So let's talk about the first track, Our Turn to Shine, and kind of the significance of that. And I know, like, you've recorded this on YouTube and had other versions of it released, and the song originally started as kind of a prompt from John Lamb's songwriting retreat, which I know he does up north with all kinds of singer-songwriters normally. How did that song start? Let's talk about kind of the origin of that, and then to where it ended up. How did you shape it? How does it make you feel when you go back and listen to it? Something that's kind of grown over time.
Yeah, so it was from the first time I went to the Lamb retreat, which has been a really bright spot for me to meet all the other songwriters. It's just been an incredible opportunity, and I was blessed to be part of both of the camps that I went to, both of the retreats. And for Our Turn to Shine, John gives really long, detailed prompts. I don't know that I remember all of it, but I do know the basic premise was I was to be changing out light bulbs and old to new, and there were certain things that they wanted that he, that were part of the song material. That's why Lowe's Home Improvement is in there, because
Yeah, you can't miss that line.
because it was in the prompt. And I thought when I went back later, and because I you write it and then you play it for the camp.
Yes.
And then I came back and I did tweak quite a few things in that, but I left that in because I thought it's just gives it context.
Yes.
And it was one of those things where I had actually written 3 songs in 24 hours.
Oh, jeez.
And this was the 3rd one, and I was like, I had written something that was kind of funny, and then I had written In the Light in a form, and that was really serious. And then I hit on this, and I liked the notion of Our Turn to Shine, but initially it was My Turn to Shine.
Yes. Yes.
And I never got to the last. I thought I was done at midnight. I thought I was done, and I had a beer, and I went to sleep, and I got up the next morning at 8 or at 7. And when I woke up, I went, it doesn't have a resolve. It can't be my turn to shine. It's gotta be greater than that.
Yes.
So instead of having breakfast, I wrote the last verse and played it for the camp, and everybody seemed to enjoy it. And but when I came back downstate, I started toying with it. And my friend Dave Tanez and I do a lot of shows together, and we were doing a show with Jeff German, who is from Ohio, part of Jeff German and the Blankety Blanks, and we were doing a little tour together, and I played that song for the first time out at one of the shows, and Dave turned to me, and we had done a lot of shows together, and he looked at me and he said, I just think I heard my favorite song that you've ever written. And that's sort of when you know that, okay. And as we've done the song, as we recorded it, as people have played on it, it's just like that. It's gratifying to hear people go, that's the song you got to lead with.
Yes.
So, it went through some changes when we came back, but the bulk of the song was there at the camp, and In the Light was actually the song that, coming out of it, I had sort of put it away, but when I came back downstate, that was the song I started playing out. I had heart for it, and I think I worked on it probably more initially when I came back, and then I turned my attention to Our Turn to Shine.
Yeah.
So.
And that song has some great lyrics. Like, you talk about an incandescent bulb, and then replaced by an LED. So I think, like, I know some of your songs talk about, like, kind of coming of age and kind of coming at this later in life. Which I think is inspirational. I'm always inspired by people who say, I did it for a while, or it was in the back of my mind, but I had work and family and other obligations, and I picked it up later on in life. And to me, that sends the best message of all, because it just reminds us that it's never too late to do what you want.
That's right.
And this song, I think, really encapsulates that, And I think this is also one of the songs that you'd like to perform today too, right? To share. So why don't we hear Our Turn to Shine?
Sure. Let me grab my guitar.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's okay.
That sounds great.
So here it is, Our Turn to Shine. I'm the last of my kind, an incandescent life from another time. Slow to turn on, it won't last long. Sorta like this old song. I'll be replaced by an LED, 820 lumens like a new TV. Find them at Lowe's Home Improvement, part of the next youth movement. Energy efficient for decades to come. By the time it goes dark, I'll be gone. I'm a dinosaur made of glass and tin. Take me out, screw a new one in. But for now, I'll light the way, brighten up your everyday, if only for a short time. It's still my turn to shine. I can chase away the night. I'm the perfect reading light. Whether it's an old newspaper or an Elmore Leonard caper, when I'm done, reuse my glass and those tiny little wires of brass. Can't do much with a broken filament when it's no longer radiant. But for now, I'll light the way, brighten up your everyday, if only for a short time. It's still my turn to shine. Still my turn to shine. I've been flickering for a little while. I'm on my last mile. Let me illuminate your smile before I go out of style. In the days before lamps, we'd sit around the camps, look to the fire for all we desire. Maybe that day will return when all we will burn is ourselves in the sun. We'll let it light our way, brighten up our everyday, oh, for the rest of time. It's our turn to shine. We'll let it light our way, brighten up our everyday, oh, for the rest of time. It's our turn to shine. 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 It's our turn to shine.
That is awesome.
I hope that sounded okay.
That sounded great. Like the vibrancy in your playing matches like kind of the vibrancy in the lyrics and the tone of the song. I feel like it's just a great fit together. You know, you can just hear it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a fun song to play, and it's a really fun song to do live.
Yes.
You know, it's got a lot of energy, and you know the it's self-deprecating. You know, I am a dinosaur. You know, in terms of you know, the songwriting world, and I'm reminded of it a lot. But the fun thing is to the fact that, you know, like Dave and I do shows, and I had people like Giacomo, Allison, and Tessa Weirchuk, and
Yes.
Jimmy Showers, and Sarah Gibson, and Jeff German, you know, people collaborating on this record. And I can't forget David Roof, because David plays
He
so
plays
many,
he plays everything. I mean he's collaborated with so many people that I admire. You know,
Yeah.
so many artists that I admire. Yeah, Yeah, just an all around terrific performer and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
And, it's like, geez, we're missing something on this. And he sits down at the piano on Midnight Vale, and we were like, man, because we had hoped to have Dave Falk play
Yes.
dobro. And during the pandemic, it just was like we were going back and forth, and Dave just, he said, look, I got to be honest. He says, I've been listening to that song, and he said, I've played a bunch of different ways. I'm just not sure it's the right piece for me. And, it was like he was being really honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we went back in, and Dave said, why don't we try this? Because we had been listening to some pieces from Lyle Lovett, and we had been listening to some of the Springsteen records.
Yeah.
Like Darkness on the Edge of Town and things like that. Racing in the Streets, primarily piano track. And Dave sat down at the piano, and when he added that, it was just like, wow. And so that was something completely unplanned, but
It sounds,
worked out great.
but it just shaped the song in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I wanted to kind of, and you touched on your other song that you're going to perform, "No Way to Live," about how that kind of really represents, the people, the homelessness of Detroit and other cities where people kind of feel lost.
Yeah.
And and let's hear that song now. And
Okay.
Kinda, yeah.
I sleep on the sidewalk, the cracks in my back. All my possessions in a clear plastic sack. I got holes in my pockets and my shoes are untied. Cold's moving in and there's no place to hide. I don't ask for much, I'm just looking for change. Used to live in this life, half cloud in my brain. But I'm reading my book as I sit by the curb. Most people figure I'm somewhat disturbed. Why can't you turn your life around, they ask. Why can't you turn your life around? It's a question I hear every day of the year. Why can't you turn your life around? Don't judge me or think I'm just down on my luck. Like a catch-22, that's where I'm stuck. No training to speak of, job prospects are dim. I could eat all my wages, but I couldn't pay rent. My skin's turned to leather, my eyes have gone dark. Can you look past it all and see deep in my heart? I used to have goals and I used to make plans. Now I sit here hoping someone gives me a hand. Why can't you turn your life around, they ask. Why can't you turn your life around? It's no way to live and there's nothing to give. Why can't you turn your life around? I'm somebody's daughter, I'm somebody's son. Someone who played on your street, carefree in the sun. Might have been through a war, run away from it all. Watched over your kids as they're learning to crawl. My story is told on a handwritten sign. It's the only thing left I can truly call mine. To protect me from rain, I sleep under a bridge. I have no idea how far I am from the edge. can't you turn your life around? When you're always on guard, eye contact is hard. Why can't you turn your life around? Maybe I got a will and I still have a voice. Do you really think I'm out here by choice? I pray to God and I hope He can hear that I ain't in this place this time next year. Why can't you turn your life around? They ask, why can't you turn your life around? It's no way to live and there's nothing to give. Why can't you turn your life around? Why can't you turn your life around? They ask, why can't you turn your life around? It's no way to live and there's nothing to give. Why can't you turn your life around?
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. No, just in terms of like capturing, I think it really kind of helps someone understand the perspective of someone who is in that situation, because I think a lot of people don't really understand that if they've never been near that or had anyone they know that's been affected by that. And I think that's a great way for people to kind of understand that perspective and understand that anybody can find themselves in that at any moment and how they can try to, deal with the situation and try to get out of it as best they can, know? So, I mean, I think that's, again, a hopeful message, but also facing a very difficult situation.
Yeah, and bless all the organizations
Absolutely.
and the individuals that reach out and
Yes.
help them. There are many organizations that are worthy of donations, and we're
Yes.
gonna try and give shout outs to as many as we can during the process of releasing that record. And we'll continue that, for as long as there's a problem, which means it'll be for a while.
Yes,
probably.
yes. But I think it's an important reminder for people. I think, it's an important reminder for people to realize that there's always help that people need, and if there's a way to give back, to continue giving back, the importance of that. And I think, you and your wife are both very active in terms of the community, right? In terms of your support.
Yep.
I know you're very supportive of the local music community, but I mean, in terms of the community in general, I know you guys have spent a lot of time volunteering and giving back, so.
Yeah, we both are on boards, and
Yes.
I've spent 25 years or more on a board that focuses on individuals with disabilities.
Yes.
Across Michigan, and that's part of the other thing I've been doing during COVID.
Nice.
The organization that I helped was two organizations: United Cerebral Palsy of
Yes.
Detroit and United Cerebral Palsy of Michigan, and we merged on July 1.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Quietly right now, but toward the end of this year, we're actually going to have all the materials, and we're actually going to launch. So I'm not only launching music, I'm launching that at the same time.
That's terrific.
And that's been a big project for me. And Angie, my wife, she's actually just become a board member at the Trinity House.
Oh, wonderful. Nice.
Which is great.
That is terrific.
And we also both help out at the House of Music in Detroit
Yep.
with Audrey Kubat.
Yep. Another great place.
Yeah, just great. And we're active at Planet Ant and
Yes.
and Ant Hall. We support WDET. We support
Yep,
as much
yep.
as we can, as well as all the musician funds that were going on. Jennifer Westwood and Dylan.
Oh my gosh, another ones that are
Man.
great supporters of our scene. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they kind of, they began that process of giving out financial
Yes.
assistance
Yes.
during COVID, and we got heavily involved in that as well. And when I was doing shows early on, streaming shows, that was where all of the money, whatever money we were raising,
Yes.
that was going there. And it just showed how generous people are, even during this time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
It was a matter of, I think some people thought, I'm okay without the $1,200 from the government.
Right.
I'm going to figure out ways to disseminate
Yes.
it and give it back. I know there were a lot of people like that, and they did really good things with it. So bless them. And you know, now it's become tougher for people because there isn't that assistance,
Right.
and
Yes.
things are still not normal,
No.
and probably won't be for a while. So, you know, there's always more we can do, I think.
Yes, and I want to also, like, you know, recognize you and Angie for being big supporters of our music scene. You guys do a really good job of kind of helping promote other people's music. And I know with some of the open mics that you ran before the pandemic, you know, and you mentioned some of the places. And I think one of them was the Velodrome too that you guys used to. Yeah,
The
cycling.
Velodrome, and
Yeah.
we used to do Ash Coffee. I have to say, Ash Coffee, AJ Nichols, who runs the Ash Coffee, and now he's partnered with another group that I've done a lot of work with, which is Eastern Market Brewing.
Oh yes.
With Dane and those guys, and I was their first music that they had there, and I've done a couple of their anniversary shows, and I just love them and love AJ. AJ came to our building to basically promote his coffee, and I went upstairs for a minute, and Angie texted me and she said, "Hey, you got to come down here and meet this guy. He thinks he might want to do a open mic," because they had just opened their second location down by the Atwater.
Yes.
And we had actually seen the space and thought to ourselves, "Hey, this would be a great space for an open mic." And
it worked out.
So we had no gear. We basically put together, you know, enough gear that we hosted it, and we did that for about 2 years, and it was fun because we support all, you know, other open mics.
Yes,
Dave
yes.
Tanya's was doing Park
Yes,
Bar,
him
and
too.
a lot of people that I met at Park Bar, because we were on different nights, I'd say, "Hey, come on over to ours the next night," and you know, Brian Reborn from Barely On
Yep.
at Desert Oasis. We could walk to that one, and we could walk to the Park Bar. So we were regulars at those, and through those, we met so many musicians.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That then they came to ours, and it was a really wonderful community of performers that would come to our open mic. I can't say enough about that experience. It broadened our horizons. We made so many great friends during that time period. And they're still close friends. And I miss that part of it.
Yes.
I miss being able to sit at Ghostlight on a Tuesday night and hear, you know,
Yes.
everybody from, you know, Allison Lewis to Audra to Emily to
All those
Anthony
great- all
Retka
those-
to
What a group,
Vern,
what a talent, my gosh.
Spoo Willoughby, you know, Vern is just a treasure, and Dave Falk and Billy Brandt. And,
Yeah, oh my gosh.
you know,
So many
just
great people.
So many people. And, you know, Dave Falk and I, as well, had done some shows where he played dobro.
Okay.
Tau Owens is another one.
Yep.
That they performed these songs live a number of times with me, and I think helped me shape how I wanted to have them played on the record. So I have to thank them. My friend Judy Brown is a great singer. She's a twin, and her and her twin sister, they do such great harmonies together.
That's awesome to have
Yeah.
to do that with your sibling, let alone your twin sibling. Yeah.
And so Judy and I, Judy and Chet's her husband, Angie and I, we host the Velodrome.
Okay.
And we're in discussions with them right now about how we can potentially bring that back, because it's a big space.
Yes.
We may be able to do
You
it.
could spread out in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're working on that. But Judy is a tremendous singer. She's done so many shows with me, and so she came up and did several songs on the record.
Yes, that's what I thought she was on there as well. Yes, because
yeah,
you named off so many great collaborators.
Yeah,
Yes.
she was on. She's on Content, and she's done that song with me
Oh, nice.
a lot, and it's great. She also jumped in on Pioneers, and on The Line Between Us, which she wasn't quite prepared to do, but we, you know, I played it for her a couple of times, and she she came down and just knocked it out. It was great because it's a little more of a, you know, it's not a nicey nice story.
Right.
And I always have to preface that when I play it out by saying this story isn't autobiographical. It's not about Angie and me, but it's still it's a story that you know, when people tell me stories, they have to realize at some point it can end up as a song.
That's what I figured. Yeah, because a lot of times those experiences can be a good inspiration for a song, whether they're based on your own experience or that of somebody you know,
Yeah.
right? Or yeah,
Simply observational. You know,
Yeah.
I'm big on observation.
Yeah, of course.
But I do want Dave. You know, Tanya's, as I said, he and I go back to when we met at DCA at an open mic and then Park Bar, and you know, we've done a lot of shows together, and he came in and did the harmonies on No Way to Live, and you know, everybody joined in on the chorus of both No Way to Live
Yes.
and Our Turn to Shine.
Yes. Yeah. Because I love the harmonies. I'm a big fan of harmonies for music across all genres, and that just stood out to me on both those tracks, as you were saying. It's such a great blend of the voices you have of all the people too. You know, I mean, they just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that you know, Dave helped with that, and you know, we recorded, and then we doubled. People did their own harmonies to their own voices, and so we have
Nice.
a lot of parts going on there. But it's and that's kind of one of the other distinguishing features of the bookends to the album, Our Turn to Shine.
Yes.
And No Way to Live, they sort of start with a chorus and end with a chorus.
Yes.
And those are two songs. The other reason that it's fun to play them out is to get, you know, people to sing along. And fortunately, I had some of those experiences before COVID hit. But now, when you're on a live stream,
Not quite the same, I
and
know.
you're going, Sing,
guys, sing
this
at
is
home.
Yeah. You know, or you're on a Zoom thing, and you're like going, no, don't sing. No, don't bother. You know, I think it would mess me up. Like I said, Jimmy Showers, man, what a player he is.
Absolutely, yes.
He's just such a talent, and both him and Tessa and Allison, I sent them the tracks. They sent me like rough tracks back about how they were thinking about doing it.
Yeah.
It was really great. You know, it was nice to, you know, so I could say, well, maybe try this or try that, or that sounds great. Let's go for it. So they came in, and Jeff German, who's in down in Ohio, he's in Columbus area, and he has his own studio. And ever since we did our tour last year with Dave, we did like a mini tour of Ohio and Michigan.
Okay.
We did a few shows together, and that was a blast. Ever since then, he told me, he said, you know, if you got something, send me the track. I'll record it. I'll record, you know, a few options for you. Use it or not, you know. And so he did it, and it was funny because he sent me tracks on a Saturday, and then the next day he said, forget that. Use this instead. I took the other ones down, and I want you to use these. And it was great. It was so much fun. Because that track that is a little more, I guess it's the closest thing to a rockin' track that I have.
Yeah, but they all have a good rhythm, and they all have like stuck in your head qualities, what I like to call it. You know, like the two you played today, I'll be going home singing those in my head probably the rest of the day. Seriously, just because they just really sink in, and they just really, you know, resonate. Is what I'm trying to say. They resonate with me, and the fact that you've collaborated with so many great people in our community, I think just like that's one of the things I love about being part of the music community here. Like, and I'll say Metro Detroit because Washtenaw County too. You know, there's so many people, and even throughout Michigan, let's say, there's so many people that, and I like how people are so supportive of each other and encouraging. And before the pandemic, like you said, a lot of people would go to the open mics and support each other, or they would do the songwriter retreats, or they would collaborate on tracks together. And I'm glad to see that still continues in a safe manner, like
Yeah.
remote or socially distanced or whatever it might be the situation. But the fact that people are still able to support each other because we need that support now more than ever,
Oh
with
yeah,
everything.
and
So,
early on, Eastside Jam Collective was doing stuff every couple day or once a week.
yes.
The Trinity House has had an open mic
Yes.
every Tuesday. I think for the first couple months was Lullabies from Detroit.
Yes. A lot of great people were featured on that for a
was
while.
really
Yes.
fun. That was really fun to do that. It was a really interesting thing because it was fun to select the songs and sort of, some people were, candles.
Yes,
and,
it was very calming
yeah, it
and
was
very
really-
relaxing to watch some of those. I saw some of those. It was just the people that
Yeah.
were on there and the songs. It was like a great way to wind down the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially
Yeah, it was great. So those, all those things to be part of were really fun. And as the summer dragged on, though, you realized, all the festivals that were going to be lost.
Yes, yes.
You had from Hollerfest
yeah.
to Art Eats and Beats to Wheatland
Yes.
in the fall, and this was when I went to Farm last a year ago.
Right. I was going to go to that this year.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was all set to go. Yeah.
So at Farm last year, we actually won tickets to Wheatland. We won
Farm?
tickets, so this was great. We're going to go to Wheatland. Well, then Dan Bracken, who I've kind of I've met through Lambs and I met
Yes.
through Farm, and then he and I participate with Michael McNevin on Wednesday nights in his song
Okay.
Puddle, as he calls it, the mud puddle. He's a great songwriter out in California. But Dan selected myself and Kyle Reishi, Caitlin Rose, and Sam Cooper
Oh, wow.
to be the Michigan songwriters in the round for Wheatland this year.
Nice.
And we were going to be there.
Right.
But we ended up doing it as a recording, and it aired last month, for Wheatland. But there's nothing replaces being on the stage
Yes,
with the other
yes.
songwriters. I was fortunate enough earlier before the pandemic to have done the Parliament Room at Otis Supply.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
With Aaron Zindel and Nina Sophia.
Oh wow, that's quite
and
that's
John.
that's quite a songwriter
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, and it was an amazing experience. And Nina joined Dave and I at first show. Then after that, and she's just an amazing performer.
Absolutely, yeah. She
right?
was featured on here not too long ago as well for Grove Sessions. So yeah.
Was she?
Yes, she was.
she's
Yeah, yeah.
great.
She did an outdoor performance in an interview not too long ago.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and it's just you go down the list, and it's like I know I'll forget people like Matt Fredericks and John Freeman, Don Dupree. Those guys were so instrumental for me early on when I moved to Detroit and I started down this path, and I wanted to meet people, and I wanted to do it respectfully and
Yes.
gracefully.
Yes.
But I wanted to learn, and I wanted to figure my way out. And one of the first experiences we had was at the Gaelic League, and we went to the songwriter night, which John hosts, but John wasn't hosting that night. Don was. And I had heard Don, I had heard some of his music, and I had heard him on an interview. And I had total respect for this guy. And we got there early, and I've learned now that people don't show up there until like 11 o'clock.
That's
for
how a
the
lot of them.
songwriter
Yes.
night, and we got there early, and he goes, all right, let's see, we got Mike Ward. So I got up and I played a couple songs, and he goes, anybody else? And there was nobody else. And he goes, well, just keep playing. So I ended up playing a few more songs, and he was really encouraging, and he said afterwards, you got to meet John Freeman,
Yes.
and which I did, and we actually realized that his parents and my parents had mutual friends in Port Huron, so it was just like this synergy was starting to form.
It's meant to happen at some point, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I can't tell you the number of times that has happened.
Yes, yeah.
Where there are people we know, coincidentally, where our paths have crossed now musically, that we knew each other from a different aspect of our lives.
Yes, and now you cross in this
Yeah.
and kind of in this part of your lives, which is
Yeah.
which I'm always fascinated by how all that stuff crosses over. you
Right?
know?
Yeah, me too. Me too. And Angie is she's the best audience in the world. Man, she'll give me a look if something's not working, if something's not right. And I pay attention to it because
The real
it's like-
review.
yeah, the real review. But she's also so encouraging. She's jumped in with both feet into this community. I think she feeds a lot of people, which
Yes,
is great.
yes.
And you'll receive an invitation at some point to when things open up
Yes.
for dinner.
I'd love to.
There are many who have enjoyed her cooking at our place, and she's a great cook, but she's a great host, and she makes people feel welcome. I really think she was the heart and soul of our Ash Open mic, because they knew they were going to get to come and talk to Angie.
The other star.
Yeah. But it doesn't surprise me. As a matter of fact, there was 2 occasions during the 30 songs in 30 days where I came out of the back room where I was writing, and I had this song, and I was really proud of it. And I played it for her, and she goes, you can't put that out there. That's just so mean. I will just tell you, the title was "There's No Cure for Stupid," and that was the nicest line in the song. It was mean, and it was a result of basically everything that was kind of surrounding us in the country.
Well,
Yeah, and, there might be a modicum of truth in it, but
I wouldn't say I disagree.
right. And then there was another one where I had visited a friend of mine in a senior center, roughly a couple years older than me, who was early onset dementia, and it was the song was so sad, and it was pretty personal. And she said, I just don't think I don't think you should put that out for the public. And so with 30 songs in 30 days, I did end up with 32 songs, but didn't share them all.
No, I understand. Yeah. No. And just the fact, like I said, you've got, and I think a lot of times people write songs for other
Yeah.
people that maybe
Yep.
they only write them for them and not meant to be shared, with everybody.
Totally.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think that's true. I think that, when you have to know when songs are appropriate
Yes.
and when they're not.
Right. Exactly.
And I've written some fairly political songs, and I will play those out.
Yes.
I will play them at specific venues and make my point of view clear. And then I've got some that are political, but they're more of a reminder than a punch in the face.
Then it stands. Yeah. But that's what the beauty of music is. You have the ability to kind of put
Yeah.
those different thoughts out there,
Yeah.
and share those with different audiences,
Right.
depending on what the message is, of course. Well, and now with, and all kinds of exciting things coming up with, like, the singles coming out,
Mm-hmm.
the videos you're working on with your son, the album coming out, as we wind down 2020 and get into 2021, what do you, and after the album comes out, where do you see yourself doing in 2021? Do you see more writing, more collaborating, or what do you hope to do, within the first, first few months of the year as you look out?
Well, I think what I'd like to focus on at the beginning of the year is getting the album released and doing a few live stream shows, trying to do some showcase or things like that, possibly a showcase with other songwriters, or in addition to that, a couple shows where if I'm going to assemble a group of players to do kind of a live stream,
Yes.
I'd like to do that and get it seen. That would be a fun thing. Obviously that takes some rehearsal, something I've never done. I've done another player and a singer, but I've not had to do what other performer like Ryan Delahaye when he did his, or Audra when
Yes.
when she did hers. They had. Now I don't think I would go to Audra's level in terms of the number of people she had involved, but Ryan's showed me that, oh, that's and Emily Rose when she did hers.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
like she had different people join her for different songs.
Right,
and,
right.
and it really does help bring the album to life.
Yes.
And to me, I'd like the opportunity to do that a couple times to at least come close to the recorded versions on stage.
Yes. Yes.
And see how that feels, and then we'll go from there. I think the new songs or songs that I'm working on now from 30 for 30, or even a couple newer songs that I'm working on, I want to start looking at some smaller recordings, more maybe myself and one other performer, or one or two other people. And I've talked to a few, Tom Alter and Anthony Retka, who both do
two
home
other
record-
tremendous singer-songwriters.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they both
yeah.
do a lot of their own production.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't. I would have to learn a little bit on how to prepare my tracks and then send them to them, and we would kind of collaborate that way for right now. Or figure out a way to do a small studio recording with myself and maybe one other
Yes.
person. I'm really intrigued by, like, when I hear someone like Sarah Jarosz, and she will.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
She's like, she'll do guitar,
Yes.
and then she'll have an electric guitar with her, or like Joe Sarapair and John.
Yep, yep.
How just the addition of John's electric guitar with her acoustic makes this really
Oh my
cool
gosh, yeah.
magic happen.
Yeah.
Now I'm being, I'm looking at those two, instances. They've been doing it for quite a while, so I realize that takes some effort on my part to learn how to do that with someone and find a player, or like Carrie and Lawrence of the Whiskey Charmers.
Yeah, oh my
how
gosh.
they do it. Because I
Yeah.
love when I know they sound great as the full band, but I think they do such an amazing job when they're just the two of them. Where it's just what he adds guitar wise, and then his harmonies now. I think that that's something to that looking at simpler arrangements like that would be a goal for some of those pieces.
And it sounds like there's a lot of exciting things coming up and ways to grow, as in terms of like production and songwriting and collaboration. I mean, I'm excited to hear like what else you have coming out down the road, and if you decide to release some of the tracks from 30 Songs in 30 Days, as another potential project at some point.
It definitely will.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll release all 30. I think
That could be that could be like the super deluxe edition for
I think, but I honestly, I will say, I think there's 15 songs
Yes,
that
easily.
I will look at finishing in some way simple to release as a collection.
Yes.
And I don't know how that'll happen. I don't know what form it'll take. But I'm excited to do it. I think one of the things we're looking at is, like, in today's world, okay, are you better off to, not forego CDs for something like that?
Yes,
And
or-
release it digitally, but maybe you release you create thumb drives.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
and then you can put some material on the thumb drive, like maybe you put the original recording, or maybe
Yes.
you put some video, or you put, you know, you because you've got, you know, that as an, you know, a way to translate it. You know, there are Steve Poltz and Bob Snyder. When they do live shows, at the end of the show, you can buy that performance.
Oh, I do that all the time at shows if artists
Right?
have that option, because I loved it. It's nice to have that memory of the show you
Right.
attended, and you can listen and go, oh, I remember that entire experience.
Well,
you know?
and it really hit us because we just got a new car this year, turned in our old one, and our new car is a Volkswagen Jetta with no CD player, and it has USB ports.
I'm laughing because I did the same thing. I bought a Kia Soul, and then my husband and I actually ended up getting like basically a line installed so we can still play a Discman because we still want to hear CDs.
Yeah.
We stream.
How
you know?
do you put a
So we have a USB we can use.
oh, you can,
yeah.
you've got
so,
a USB
so I've done that,
CD player?
but we actually went to a separate audio shop and had it installed where like it's basically like we go through the radio and put it
Got
on
it.
a certain station like at the lower end of the dial, and then we can have our Discman hooked up to it. I mean, I'm not a technical whiz. My husband
Wow.
arranged all this, but like now we can play the CDs in a Discman in the car, and so because we still want to hear CDs, you know,
Yeah.
like I know a lot of people aren't into physical media, but I've always said before that I'm a huge physical media proponent, whether that's vinyl, CDs, cassettes, and I always like the fact if artists even have a small run printed, that I will gladly like buy a copy at a show or get one from you from your website or wherever, Bandcamp, whatever it might be, because I like to be able to take that home and look at it and look at the pictures and look at the lyrics if they're included and the liner notes, because I absorb all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
we're weighing all that right now.
yeah, I know,
because-
and it's expensive too to get vinyl printed, especially,
Oh,
even though I
vinyl
love
is-
vinyl, but yeah,
but
yeah.
vinyl for us just doesn't. You know, when we look at it, but CDs are gonna be done.
Yes.
For the light, for the darkness and the light.
Nice.
And those probably will begin making a pre-sale available probably in December.
Okay. Nice. Something to look forward to then.
we're looking forward to it. We're just we did the mastering at La Luna
Yes.
recording with Ian Gorman, and you know, that what a nice studio he's got, and another great, you know, guy. We actually Ian's a guy that I knew since he was a kid. But
Another
he
great connection.
Well, he didn't really remember because, you know, it was he was young, but I worked in the advertising business
Yes.
as a creative for 40 years, and one of the people that I worked with was Jim Gorman, his dad.
Oh my gosh.
And
That's another
I mean,
small
we worked
world.
together for years, and so I knew I knew that when Ian was in high school and then in college, that he was heavily involved in bands and music, and knew that when he went off to Western, he stayed in that area and was really involved in bands. And so, you know, I kind of followed him early on like that, and then kind of lost touch. And then when he opened La Luna, we kind of reconnected, and I was excited that he could be involved in the project with the mastering. So
Another great experience. It's come full circle.
right, I know.
Just like we were talking
You know,
about those
I'm
coincidences, you know.
I'm a believer in that. You know,
Me too.
when Mike Gentry and I met, we had kind of peripherally known each other,
Mm-hmm.
but we really got to know each other at Farm last year, and he came and met with me, and we ended up talking for about 3 hours, and when he left, I just said, I want him to produce this record.
And he's mentored so many great musicians and you know, produced so many great musicians. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
What a great pairing. As soon as I heard that you were working with him, I thought,
Yeah.
this is going to be a heck of an album.
And the two of them, Dave and
Yes.
Mike, I mean, they are just like, they are so in sync that, you know.
I've seen it. Yes, they are.
Yeah. You know, it's like Dave is right there, you know, as not only engineering, but co-producing
Yes.
and playing. Dave played bass, mandolin, did the Hammond organ,
Everything.
all the percussion that's there, and played acoustic guitar on Content, which is beautiful. And what else did he play on? I know he did something else. Oh, he did stand-up bass and piano on Midnight Bill. And it was right after he played that piano piece, that piano that he played it on was shipped out because he got a Steinway.
Oh my god! Oh yes, I had heard that he had gotten a Steinway. Yeah, I heard
so
about that.
Wow. The cool thing about Midnightville, it's the last track that his old piano.
And you've got that documented on that song.
Yep. But I like it. I like it because it is an older piano, and it's got it kind of has some of that Tom Waits piano feel to it. It's got that sort of older piano feel to it, and
it's got that history behind it, as you can hear, which is great about like kind of older instruments and how they've been around for so many different recordings, and but well, I want to say like I appreciate you coming to join me today for my first episode, and I love The Darkness and the Light. I'm excited for people to hear this when it comes out, especially when they get a chance to hear. They had a chance to get a preview today, but to hear the tracks when they come out and to see the videos. And again, I just want to say I'm looking forward to seeing where things go in 2021 and getting back to the point where we can do live music safely and for people to be together again face to face. So.
Totally. I can't thank you enough, Lori. I mean, you are a tireless supporter of music in this region, and I'm honored to be your first guest, and I'm sure it's going to be one of many.
Yes.
And this is just a great introduction, for people to see what your history is like as well. So I'm excited.
Well, thank you. Me too. And again, I want to say thanks for joining us today for the first Stratton Setlist episode in conjunction with Grove Sessions and Grove Studios. Visit Grove on Facebook and YouTube, and we're on all the social platforms. Visit StrattonSetlist.com for more music. Again, we'll be back again for another episode soon, but thanks, Mike. And looking forward to seeing what else is coming up soon. Thanks again.
Thank you.